Hey, friend, welcome to the podcast. You Are Significant, the podcast where you will hear real stories from real people and we will get down into the truths of your own significance. You were created on purpose for a purpose with seeds of greatness inside of you. Now, let's get down to it. As grandmothers, business owners, empty nesters, we have spent years pouring into others. And yet, as we look at this time in our life and the changes that have come, we need to continue to be intentional at how we value others and how we see them. Welcome to this episode. And as you find this episode valuable, please hit the subscribe button, follow button, and share button. So, you know, this is a learned skill. And if you're new to having adult children or being an empty nester, and maybe your kids are away at college, it is a total shift. Would you agree? Um, for me, this has been a complete and total shift because I was a homeschool mom and we homeschooled for basically 20 years. Um, I was a stay-at-home mom. I enjoyed it so much. There was hard moments, there were tears, there was sweat, maybe even some blood. But it was so totally worth it. I can still remember that, snuggly feeling of getting to hug each one of my daughters and tell them good job grading their papers, grading their work, and helping them learn and seeing those light bulb moments. I mean, it was priceless. And getting to study the Bible with them every morning and sit around the table and them take notes in their little binders about things that were truly important to us, more important than math or science or PE. Being able to tell our children and share God's word with them and do that at the beginning of the day when their minds and their hearts were fresh. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world those days. And yet now we are transitioned completely with the girls into a time of life where they all have their own home. They have their own animals. My middle daughter's about to have her first baby, but they have their own children, their own jobs. And so this is a super important question, and it's not relevant just to our families, but also as women in business, women of influence, whether that's in your church or whether that's in your community as a volunteer, even just going to the grocery store. And now you don't have children with you, you're going maybe by yourself. Maybe you do grocery pickup. I still like to go in the store and look at things, pick it up, smell it, touch it. I love the interaction with people. I like shopping. So, maybe for you it isn't going grocery shopping. Maybe for you it's when you go shoe shopping, or maybe you go do something like pickleball. That's become very popular with women our age and guys our age too. So wherever you are, it becomes important to understand, how do we make others feel significant? How do we make others feel special, seen, and valued? This is not an easy thing to do with the changes in our life. I don't know, maybe you agree, maybe you feel me on this, and, um, I would love to hear your comments. Put them in the comments in the podcast episode. There's a place for you to leave comments, and write it down so that after you finish listening, you can type it in. I would love to hear if you can identify with this, that when your kids are home, you can hug on them. You can comfort them when they scrape their knee, or have a loss, like maybe a pet passes away, or maybe they got a bad grade on a paper. Um, maybe they just don't understand something and they come to you and it's really troubling them, and you have a conversation and they feel better after the conversation and you're able to comfort them. But when they move out, then those situations don't just come up as naturally because they're not living in the same space where you are. So, how do we make our children who are grown, or our grandchildren who don't live with us, they're being raised by their parents, how do we help these who are so important to us to feel special and to feel valued and to feel seen? One of the things that my children have said to me is that I'm guarded, and I still don't exactly understand. I'm learning right along with you. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today, is because I hope that we can learn together. I hope that this podcast episode will help you to get some new ideas, that you can walk away from listening to this podcast episode, You Are Significant episode, and actually have some things that you can try, that you can apply to your situation. And as a business owner with a team and team members, this is also important to me because my team members don't live with me. And I want to make them feel seen and valued. Maybe you work and you are a boss, you work at a workplace, a traditional business, and you would like to make your coworkers know how much you appreciate them in a way that is appropriate, of course. Um, and it's challenging, right? And the answer is not always spending money and giving a gift. We do think about the five love languages, and we know that quality time, quality conversation, words of affirmation, appropriate touch, like a handshake or a touch on the back of the arm. There's a pressure point right here above the elbow. A pat on the back, a literal pat on the back. So, appropriate touch. These are all love languages, and gift giving is also one. So, what can we do, though, to truly help our loved ones, our coworkers, our business partners feel seen and heard? And taking this into the family realm, where we are in relationship with people now who are not in our home, when we are an empty nester and we have children who are grown living in other places and we have grandchildren. So, um, everybody likes to feel noticed and appreciated, right? And so, if we understand that, it helps us to think about um, Luke 6:31, the scripture that says, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." What would you appreciate if you were in the other shoes? What would make you to feel loved and to feel valued? Um, for me, I definitely appreciate a pat on the back. I'm a words of affirmation girl. So just reaching out to me, sending me a text and saying, "Hey, I was thinking of you today. I hope that you're having a good day." For my daughters or my grandkids, saying, "I love you." For a coworker, a team member, since we're both females, saying, "I love you, I appreciate you," or saying, "I appreciate you," if it is someone of a different gender, to keep things appropriate. So, grown children, they may not always say it back, but they need to hear it. I think of when, we're raising our teenagers and they're going through those hormone changes and the irritating times. Even grown kids in their 20s, they're still going through a lot of hormone changes, a lot of shifts. They're trying to understand their new role and your new role and adjust their expectations. I think, especially for families who have homeschooled, um, I think this is even harder because we were together all the time and they got so much attention constantly. Um, as my children got older, they were more independent learners. Um, and so, I think there was a transition, but I still think too there's some expectations that were formed from being together all the time. And we did birthdays big, and we spent so much time together watching movies, making dinner. We made a meal, all the meals together. We made 3 meals a day, a lot of days, because we love to cook and we like to make things from scratch. And so we were making eggs, or we were making cooked meals at lunch because we really weren't sandwich people. We were making salads or cooking pasta. So, when there's this big transition, it's like, how do we still communicate? Especially if acts of service is the love language, how are we going to communicate that I love you, I care? So, I think just talking about it, I think communicating verbally that I love you, I care, how was your day? What are you up to? What's happening in your life? What do you think about this question? And maybe posing a question like, are you meal planning, or do you still um, like for us, we used to do a menu every week, and then we would go to the grocery store and buy the ingredients we needed to cook everything, and then we would come home and put it all up, and we were set. And so maybe you could ask your grown child, like, is are you still doing your meals this way, or what are you doing for meals? I know, like, my girls, they love to meal prep, and they do still like to go to the store. One of my daughters loves to shop at Aldi, and so she'll go buy all her week's stuff and then come home and do some meal prepping, some things ahead and some things as they go. She is such a great baker, really great at baking breads, and all the girls are really great bakers. Um, and have so much talent. For me, my life is totally different on the cooking. I'm a semi-retired cook because I don't need to eat a lot. Being in perimenopause, I don't need to eat a lot of calories like I used to. I need to eat a lot of protein, but I don't need a lot of calories, and I don't need as much food, like volume, as I used to. So, yeah, your team members, they're gonna work harder when they feel personally valued and not just like another number. And a simple check-in, remembering a birthday, praising for a job well done can transform their morale. And so, when it's their birthday, do you have a way to keep up with their birthdays? I know for me, I need to do better at this. Um, One of my team members had a birthday over the weekend, and I wished her happy birthday on Monday. And I really want to do better at, like, having all their birthdays in my calendar, the ones who are I'm the closest with, that are really that I do coaching calls with every week. And that was something I was going to share is, the weekly check-in. You can set a time one-on-one with your high performers, and that way you make a safe space where they can feel heard, they can share things just with you, and you can tell them what you're proud of them for, praise them, and talk about victories. So, the second way to help them feel seen and heard is to speak words of life and encouragement into them. So, words have power. Our words have a lot of power. Our words create. Um, our words actually create. Proverbs 16:24. Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. So, some people weren't raised getting a lot of words of affirmation and verbal confirmation. I was. My dad, if he said, I love you once, he said it. I want to say 100 times a day. I was so blessed to have two parents, my mom and my dad, who both said, I love you a lot. And my dad would say, you look so pretty. He would say, I love your outfit. My dad was into clothes and shoes and hair, and he used to sell shoes when he was like they were early married. There was a time when he worked for a store in Nashville called Family Bootery, and he was a salesman in the shoe store helping people pick out what shoes they wanted and fitting them for their shoes. So, and dad is a minister, being in the public, being, on stage speaking. Um, he cared about his clothes and his hair and his shoes. So dad was really good to reciprocate that and say, I love your shoes. I love your hair. You look so pretty. And so again, I know that is really probably rare from, just what I hear other women and men share, that a lot of people don't get that growing up. Um, but what you can give that to yourself. I want to say that number one, what you need, and this is something I've really begun to realize more in the last even year, recent times, is you can give yourself what you need. Yes, it means a lot when we get it from someone else, but if you need words of affirmation, tell yourself what you want to hear. Like, I love you. You look good. You did a good job. Um, tell yourself what it is you would really like to hear from someone else. And as you begin to do that, you are actually sowing into your own life healing words, and you will reap what you've sown. So, as you begin to give yourself words of affirmation, you're going to begin to get those from other people too. And I believe gratitude is also another seed for words of affirmation. Speaking words of life and encouragement over yourself is going to lead to other people speaking words of life and encouragement over you. And gratitude is foundational. So if you keep a journal, and I hope that you do, it's something we talk about a lot on this podcast, is write something, one sentence each day that is exactly what you would love for someone else to say to you. Write it in your journal to yourself, and give yourself those words of empowerment, and then give them away to others. Look for others in your team, in where you work, in your family. And your family doesn't have to live with you to practice this, right? My grandson, he raised two of his grades recently. He's raised them both up a whole letter grade. And so when we had them come and stay the weekend with us recently, and I told him, I am so proud of you for your good grades. I'm so proud of you. And my little granddaughter has a wiggly tooth. And she was like, Gigi, look. And she was wiggling her front tooth. She was like, my tooth is wiggly. And so I'm like, you're not a baby anymore. You're officially a big girl because you have a loose tooth. And when it falls out, then babyhood is over to me when they lose that first tooth. So I was just bragging on them and loving on them. But I can do that over the phone, over FaceTime. It doesn't have to be in person, but there does need to be communication. And so, young moms and dads, tell your parents what's going on, that they could brag on their grandchild, especially if you don't live close enough to see each other regularly. Or even if you do, like when they're going to see them again, text them and say, hey, pss, 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 pss. Let them in on what they could brag on their grandchild for, so that they can help you in raising that child's self-esteem and helping them to feel loved and seen and valued, and like they are a good person. Because man, that inner child stays with us, right? And we are having to overcome and reprogram. One trainer said, he was so harsh. He was like, if something was bad, just kill it. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty strong language. But being able to lift our grandchildren up and each other up, whatever our age is, whether it's a family member or a team member, this is going to be powerful to speak words of life and encouragement over them. So, no matter what age you are, you still need words of encouragement. Um, so, the third point that I want to share with you today is to serve with love and thoughtfulness. And my grandmother, my grandma Smith, we lived really far away. I mean, it was, when we were in Louisiana, they lived in Alabama. So it was hours and hours and hours road trip. And we only saw them 1 week out of the year. The rest of the year, it was on the phone and by mail. And so my grandma, she used to mail me a letter that she hand wrote, and she would cut out a family circle comic and put it in there. She loved to get the comics and cut them out and put them with her letter. And so I would open her letter, and the first thing I wanted to read was her comic. Like, what comic did she send me? And I would laugh. And I would read her letter, and she would tell me things she was doing and, um, different everyday things about her everyday life. And I have saved all of those letters. I have a big box of cards and letters because when people send me letters or cards, I really appreciate that. I see that as a gift. And so we can send our grown kids a card. We can send them a letter. Um, not just a text, but actually getting something in the mail. Don't you feel special when you get something personal, not a bill, not an ad, but a personal like card or letter? Like, I don't know the last time I got a positive letter in the mail that was just to tell me, like back in the day when we were pen pals, that would really be special. And I think that's one of the things I'm going to take from this podcast episode and do is write a letter to my grandkids. And, you can just print it. If you write in cursive, just print it so they can read it. And my kids' grandma used to send them cards and letters. She would send a card, but write on the left side where it was all blank and, write a whole bunch of things about, what she had been doing or what she was proud of them for. Um, and they've saved a lot of her cards. And so sending a handwritten card to our grandchild, our adult child, and this would also work with a team member. Um, and we can also give them our time. If you do live close enough, surprise them and offer to babysit. When we were still living close to our kids, we just moved about a month ago. But we would babysit the dogs. We would dog sit. And I say they're my fur grandbabies. They're my first grandbabies, is those dogs. And they're special. We pretty much go back to Athens every week, um, on Wednesdays, and we get to see our kids that have time. And this week I saw our middle daughter's fur babies, and we bought them a chicken at the one of those chicken toys, and they loved it. They were all about it, and we got one for them at Christmas, and it's already done for. So we got them one this week, and it was like, and that was a way to still connect with our kids too. And I think one of the challenging things too sometimes is your in-laws, your son-in-law, your daughter-in-law. Like, how can I make them a part of the family more? And I have I totally need to grow in this area. I've not done well in that area, and I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm doing it wrong and repenting and need to apologize more, I'm sure, and say, hey, you know what? I've not done a good job remembering your birthday, or, like just being aware and creating more awareness around how to make them feel special and make them feel a part of the family and make them feel loved. And so I think it connected with my son-in-law, my daughter, and the dogs to give a gift. First John 3:18 says, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. So maybe you don't have fur babies in your family due to allergies or preferences, but how can you connect with an act of kindness? Even sending a small gift. Like, I love that Amazon has gift baskets or gift kits, and you can put in a dollar amount, like $10 gift collection, and it will show you what's available, and you can ship it straight to your team member, your loved one, and they're going to feel so loved. I don't know very many people. I do know a few, but I don't know very many people that don't love a gift. Usually, if they don't love a gift, it's because their self worth is really, really, really low, and they still need love. They still need your love. And a lot of times, if they don't want a gift, an act of service or spending time with them, words of affirmation is still going to be needed as a place to start. But what can you do as an act of kindness to serve with love? Um, and so, even saying, "Hey, let's grab some coffee." Hey, let's setting a time. Let's grab some coffee, and then when they show up for coffee, having them just a little small gift, like I love handmade soap with a ribbon around it and a little card, and tucked inside the bow. At Christmas time, it could be an ornament. I love, like, Cracker Barrel has buy one, get one free. This last year, they had hand painted wooden ornaments, buy one, get one, half off. And it was like $1. But sending that in a bubble envelope, I sent those in a Christmas themed bubble envelope. I have birthday themed envelopes, and sending that to either your loved one or your team member and letting them know how special they are to you. Sending them a graphic that says $10 off if it's, your customer. Um, you know, redeem this with this code. And so, what is it that you can do to serve and to show them through a gesture that you really do appreciate them, you love them, and you're so thankful for them? So, I hope that this has given you some new ideas of how you can help others to feel seen and valued, and help them to know they are significant. They are significant to you. And we can see them, we can speak life over them, we can serve them with love. And so, what are you going to do? What are you going to take away from this podcast? Drop it in the comments. Again, share your comments with me. I read them all, and I give you some feedback. And you can also find me on Facebook, on Instagram, and at the Darlene Lee, and send me a message. I read all of my messages, and I will respond. And I would love to hear what it is that you took away that you're going to do. And I would love to hear your story. Like, after you do it, what happened? How did it go? So, have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to You Are Significant. I hope this episode inspired you to embrace your own God given purpose. If this episode inspired you and blessed you, would you please share it out with a friend who needs to be reminded of their own significance? And remember to hit subscribe. Until next time, remember to walk in faith, find the joy, and stand in your significance.